This week on Instant Experts, is it a bird? Is it Superman? No, it's a plane. Donald Trump takes one of the biggest bribes in history. The Liberal Party has a new leader.
It's one of a new species they've discovered. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called women.
And in sport, chaos in the natural kingdom, or at least the NRL.
This one involves tigers, storms, and bears.
And it's not pretty. Welcome back to Instant Experts, Emoluments Edition. It's all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and as always, I'm here with my dear friend, The Honk. Honk, welcome.
Henry, a pleasure to be back with you. And what a week. We say it every week. This is a show about crooks, fuckwits, and morons. And as always, all three of those groups have done themselves proud.
What's caught your eye this week, Honky?
Is there anything, as you said in the intro, is there anything bigger than Trump's plane bribe?
It's the most extraordinary thing, isn't it?
I mean, the guy's on a Middle Eastern swag grab tour, but I mean, even by his standards.
It's a Shakedown tour of the Sheikhs.
Yeah.
But tell us about the plane specifically.
Well, hasn't he said Qatar has offered Trump a free plane which is proposed to replace the presidential jet, Air Force One.
Right.
So this is you told me it's a new 747. It's worth about US $400 million.
That's right.
What do the Qataris call it?
The Qataris called it a palace in the sky, quote unquote.
And Trump said yes.
He said yes. Yeah, he's been offered a $400 million plane by a foreign government and has said, yeah, that sounds like a good deal. I'll take it.
What's his, how could you, even for Trump, what's the defense?
His defense is his plane at the moment, which is about 40 years old, isn't as good as the planes that the Sheikhs have. And he literally said, with the United States of America, I believe we should have the most impressive plane.
What I love is that he did this beautiful Trumpy way, on paper, the notionally right thing, right? Which he asked his highest legal officer, his US Attorney General, Pam Bondi, Pam of Bondi, about if it was okay to accept the aircraft. And her view was it was, quote, legally permissible.
This is the same Pam Bondi who was previously a lobbyist for Qatar, getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a month.
There's that little quirk.
Yes.
But there's also another little quirk, which is called the US Constitution. I don't know if you heard of it.
Well, I have heard of it, and I actually looked this one up because there is something called the Emoluments Clause, isn't it? It's in the main section of the Constitution before all the amendments. It was actually in the OG version.
Yeah. So this was top of mind.
When they
wrote this fucking thing.
Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, and it goes as follows, quote unquote, no person holding any office of profit or trust shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office or title of any kind, whatever, from any king, prince, or foreign state.
It seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
It's pretty clearly prevents foreign governments from bribing or influencing US officials by offering them gifts, payments, or honours. An emolument is a payment.
Yeah.
So basically, the president and any other federal official, for that matter, can't accept a valuable gift from a foreign power without congressional approval. For example, a plane. It's the most ridiculous and open case of bribery since the previous one.
Yeah, and what's incredible is, like, this is part and parcel. Like, just before this trip, didn't Trump's organization, not Trump personally, but the Trump organization, didn't they take a deal with Qatar for like a luxury resort?
The organization run at completely arm's length, called the Trump Organization. Run by Eric Trump Jr.
Yeah, who's a genius, clearly acts on his own behalf with his own independent free thought.
Exactly, very entrepreneurial fellow.
But I mean, consider when Carter was president, very famously, he left his presidency to discover that he'd basically gone broke because he had a peanut farm, remember, in Georgia, which had been put in, he was required by ethics laws to his own principles to put into a blind trust.
Right.
And he came out and discovered it had not been managed well. He never looked at it once, and it had basically gone bust. Meantime, this guy's taking $400 million planes.
Yeah, plus a luxury resort and golf course development in Qatar called Trump International Golf Club and Villas. That's the one that Eric's running.
Yeah, and as other people have noted, which I do is worth repeating, a lot of people have noted, so just to be clear for everyone, the rule is if you're a regular American, you've got to buy a locally made car or else you're going to be paying tariffs on that car, right?
Right.
But the Air Force One can be Qatari.
That's right. That's right. And it doesn't end there. Just quickly on his Middle East tour, we talked about the golf course in Qatar. That's a $5.5 billion property development deal.
It's a handy.
Run by the Qatari.
Nice coincidence that he managed to work that deal out when he was amazing.
Qatari Sovereign Wealth Fund licensing Trump's brand from him. They've done real estate deals in Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Where Trump just happens to be going on this trip, of course.
Correct. Saudi Arabia taking a short break from cutting up American journalists with bone saws in embassies.
Yes, indeed.
And then the crypto one, the crypto scams are off the hook.
Incredible.
There's two arms of his crypto scam. One is he owns a crypto exchange called World Liberty Financial. Nothing dodgy about that at all.
I already can't find my wallet's already fallen out of my pants just hearing the name.
It's turned it into electrons. And it's done a deal to take $2 billion in deposits from Abu Dhabi, basically, or an Abu Dhabi-backed venture, and most of the money there is state-owned one way or the other.
And then what's this thing about the auction, the private dinner thing for people who invested in Trump's crypto coin?
So he's got the exchange, this World Liberty Financial, and then he's got his own coin called the Trump coin.
And it literally is $sign and then the word Trump.
Exactly. He loves naming things after himself.
Yeah.
And he put that up to auction 20% of it just before he was inaugurated, made a couple $100 million. He's now offered a dinner with the president to the top 25 owners of Trump coin. So a whole bunch of people have been buying coins. $148 million of sales in April and May. They own 80% of the stock of Trump coins. Every time somebody buys new coin, they get money directly.
Yeah.
And they're just buying electrons, right?
Yeah.
And when third parties exchange coin between themselves, they get a transaction fee. The Trumps get a transaction fee.
What can you actually do with this coin?
Well, you can't buy anything in the real world with the coin. The only thing you can buy is Trump.
But that doesn't make any sense. So it's basically just a back and forth way of getting access and deals from Trump, right?
Yeah, it's a bribe. So the TikTok has been,
the
big social media platform, Chinese owned, has been under investigation by the US, and Trump's in fact threatened to shut it down, and then he's threatened to force a sale to American interests on the ground.
Yeah. Let me guess, by any chance did TikTok
buy a little
crypto coin?
And the company that controls TikTok just bought $300 million worth of Trump coin.
Yeah.
Which is small change for them because TikTok's worth billions. And it's worth a lot more to them to keep it open than to shut it down.
But I wonder if the investigation Trump's threatening might go away if they...
that is paying $300 million to 1 on the odds on that.
Fucking crooks.
Yeah, as my sister observed to me once, she said Trump's real skill is committing the crimes in plain sight.
Yeah, and making you think you're crazy for daring to question them.
Or just having so many that
you can't even keep track, right?
Up. Exactly.
Unbelievable.
All right, so with that out of the way, we like to start the show with a shout out to listeners all over the world. We've got plenty in Australia, of course. Particular thanks to Sophie and Sam for sharing our content.
Yes, indeed.
We've only lost 10% of our listeners since your endorsement.
In fairness, they lost a lot more. Neither they or we've ever offended so many new people in one go.
Seriously, we appreciate it. So please do share the show with your friends.
Yes.
In the UK, West Malling in Kent. We've got Wembley, home of the famous stadium.
Yes.
We've got Phil in Twickenham.
Yes.
So we've got all the football codes covered.
Codes, yeah, indeed.
And a big shout out to Madeleine up in the Lake District, which
yes.
is a famously beautiful part of the world up in Cumbria.
Yes. Madeleine's a big fan of the show, but it's an especially beautiful part of the world, Lake District, especially if you're rich, right?
Yeah, it's got that real ginger spice / Christian Horner feel. You know how
this is from Drive to Survive.
Yeah,
right?
You know how they're all constantly going to their country house and riding horses.
Right. Where do you reckon the house is up in the Lake District? Where's Ginger Spice and Christian Horner's house?
Well, I don't know if it's where their house actually is, but it feels like they're kind of Lake Windermere types, doesn't it?
Yeah, as opposed to like some of the other beautifully named areas in the Lake District, like Penrith.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Penrith.
Brockhole.
Okay.
Cockermouth. Isn't there a place called Cockermouth? These are real places in the Lake Districts, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't think they're in Cockermouth.
No. Anyway, but more importantly, hello and thank you to Madeleine for listening.
Other locations, new locations around the world, Accra, which is the capital, of course, of Ghana on the west coast of Africa.
Yeah, they're coming for our listeners in Nairobi. They're not putting up with it.
Well, it's actually next door to Burkina Faso.
Right, there we go.
So the word is spreading along the African coast.
Ghana was formerly known, there's also the Ivory Coast, but wasn't Ghana formerly known as the Gold Coast?
Yes, it's next to the Ivory Coast, but it was known as the Gold Coast when it was a British colony. And the Portuguese and the Dutch and the Danes were also there at various stages, slaving mainly, unfortunately.
But you reckon they changed the name of the Gold Coast to Ghana just to get rid of the association with the British, or do you reckon it's to get rid of the association with the Gold Coast in Australia?
That's a little bit harsh.
Why does Ghana have 500-story buildings on every beach and like a lip-filling salad on every corner and herpes just from breathing the air?
I'm sure it is beautiful one day, perfect the next.
Yeah, not the one in Australia.
Basel in Switzerland, home of course, Honk. I know you're a big fan of the Basel Banking Accords, imaginatively entitled Basel I, Basel II and Basel III.
Sorry, were these named up by Soren Kierkegaard? What the fuck is that?
They are a series of international agreements developed by the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision to establish minimum capital requirements for banks, basically, so they don't go broke in times of financial crisis.
How often do you get laid at parties with those sort of facts?
Well, Mrs. Lee is away, so I've had to resort to reading things like the Committee on Banking Supervision papers to keep the passion levels under control.
Fair enough.
And Middlesbrough, we've got a listener in Middlesbrough, which has a place in Australian sporting folklore because it's the first club of Australia's best ever soccer player, arguably, Craig Johnston, who went on to play for Liverpool.
Yes, indeed.
And the former Socceroo goalkeeper, Mark Schwarzer.
Wasn't Mark Schwarzer your landlord at an apartment you used to rent at one point?
He was indeed. Good memory. For 9 years, he was our landlord.
What was he like as a guy?
He was a fantastic landlord. He never called. He never bothered us. And he never worried about putting up the rent because he was getting paid about £20,000 a week to play in the Premier League.
And that got him through, did it? That got him through each week?
Yeah, I like to think, we made the difference.
But we got to talk about, can we please talk about the final shout-out, the biggest, most important shout-out goes to a listener deep in the Arctic Circle, as we talk about a cherished friend of the show.
Indeed.
We're talking, of course, about none other than...
Got to be Erik the Viking.
It's Erik the Viking. So last week, and we remind listeners on this show, you can go to our website, instantexperts.com.au, and you can leave us a voicemail. And this is what we got from Erik the Viking. We're going to play it for you now.
It is Erik the Viking. I am very upset with Henry Lee. The love you have for us Havans is pure like the driven snow. Like Odin, I am true to her even when she is in the arms of the eyelash man. I will beat him to death and we will be together once more.
It's outstanding. Now, it's a little hard to make out given the thick Viking accent, but we did warn a wolf.
You mean the thick, throbbing Viking accent?
We did warn a wolf style, go back to the videotape
yes.
and make a transcript, and it says, "This is Erik the Viking.
Yes.
I'm very upset with Henry Lee.
Uh-oh.
The love I have for Usha Vance is pure like the driven snow."
This is Usha Vance. This is the wife of J.D. Vance, the Vice President.
Correct.
The Vice Prostate, yeah.
Like Odin, I am true to her even when she is in the arms of the eyelash man.
That's J.D. Vance, yeah.
I will beat him to death and we will be together once more. I love that, the eyelash man.
We normally call him B.J. Vance, the Vice Prostate.
That's right.
But we got to switch to the eyelash. We got to add the eyelash man.
The eyelash man, add it to the repertoire. So big thanks to you, Erik, or the listener masquerading as Erik, for sending that in. It wasn't actually us that did that. It was a real listener.
Yeah, and we genuinely don't know who.
Please keep them coming.
So let us continue on our little journey of Trump madness around the world. It's
been a constitutional law professor's dream this week.
Yeah.
Because there's a big case going before the Supreme Court. You're an escaped lawyer. You're almost a genuine expert in this field. You'll certainly
far from an expert.
Qualify as an instant
certainly
expert.
An instant expert.
Talk us through it.
So this is the birthright citizenship case. So the Trump White House is trying to question whether the kids of illegal immigrants, if the illegal immigrants are in the United States, they're trying to argue if the kids were born in the United States, even if the parents are illegal, they're trying to argue the kids are not citizens of the United States.
They have the same pesky complication they have with emoluments, don't they?
Which is a specific clause of the Constitution, the 40th Amendment, right?
Yeah.
Which says, as we've read it on the show before, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
So that's extremely clear to me. All persons born in the United States, so if you're born in the United States, you're a citizen.
Yeah.
If you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Yeah.
And which is presumably just about everybody with carve-outs, say, if you're born in a an embassy, or if you're in an invading army, you're a child, you're a pregnant mother as part of an invading army.
But other than that, you're clearly, if you're born in the US, you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Like, where's the wiggle room for these kids not to be citizens, right?
I mean, you have to argue that kids of illegal immigrants are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
But on what basis? On the basis that they're not because their parents aren't?
Well, let's assume that's the argument, but then the US wouldn't have jurisdiction over the kids or the parents.
Yeah.
So they've said, we don't have jurisdiction over you, in which case they have no right to deport them.
Yeah, or kidnap them
and send them to El Salvador with Trenda Aragua and the Venezuelan gang parrots.
Yeah. So they're surely going to lose, right?
You'd hope so.
Have you been following the arguments in the Supreme Court from some of the judges, like sort of openly trolling the US Solicitor General?
Tell us more about it.
Well, this thing from Justice Kagan sort of pointed out, one of the more
Eleanor Kagan,
more progressive, sort of a Biden-appointed justice, said, well, this is the 14th Amendment we're talking about. She said, if the 14th president could ignore the 14th Amendment, why can't the next president just ignore the Second Amendment about the right to bear arms?
That's a strong move, because nothing freaks out MAGAs more than the prospect of not having assault rifles.
Well, how are they going to shoot kids in schools if they can't, There's this kind of interesting moderate faction, developing in the Supreme Court. You've got the three Biden-appointed female judges. You've got, Kagan, Sotomayor, and the other one. And then you've got Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and then occasionally Chief Justice Roberts, and you've got Kavanaugh.
Yeah. The other Biden appointment was Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
that's right. Except when we were talking before the show, you thought her name was Ketanji Jackson Brown.
Well, Ketanji Brown Jackson Brown is an honest mistake, right? Actually, I looked into why was I confused. Yeah. I looked into it because, in fact, in the early to mid 70s, there actually was a Justice Jackson Brown on the Supreme Court. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think I might have read a couple of his judgments / albums.
Often joined in judgments by Justices Frey and Henley, occasionally Justice J.D. Souther.
Wasn't Justice Meisner in there for a while?
Yeah, Meisner was in there, I think, Felder, Walsh, Justice Walsh. Leadon. But Justice Jackson
All-Star
Brown.
Court, that one.
All-Star Court, but Justice Jackson Brown, wrote a lot of very famous judgments. Famous medical negligence case, Dr. My Eyes. And then what was the one, you remember you told me about it, what was the one about the case where the cars were negligently failing to indicate when they were out of petrol? What was that case called?
Running on empty.
Oh, the running on empty case,
yeah.
But the best known one, obviously.
His best known work is a case called US versus a corner in Winslow, Arizona.
Such a fun sight to sue.
It was an interesting case. It was a landmark in the male Me Too movement. It's not well known, the male Me Too movement.
Yeah.
And the facts of the case were there was a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford who slowed down to take a look at this fellow who was just standing there on the corner.
And what happened? He objected to that, did he?
Well, he took objection to being ogled like that.
And so what did Justice Jackson Brown rule?
Well, it was a landmark ruling because Justice Brown ruled that it was okay to ogle the guy as long as she let him know whether her sweet love was going to save him.
Oh, right. By the way, don't feel too sorry for the guy that lost. He wasn't an angel, by the way, because if you look at the facts, he had 7 women on his mind. Didn't he have 4 that want to own him, 2 that want to stone him, and 1 says she's a friend of his? Isn't that within the facts? I'm pretty sure. Anyway, honest mistake, because Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and Justice Jackson Brown, easy mistake to make.
Now, there are, of course, quotes from the song Take It Easy. There's a good story behind that. Do you know that story, Honk?
No, tell me.
Yeah, so the Eagles, they came from, you probably know where Frey and Henley came from.
Henley was from Texas and Frey was from Detroit, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so they came to LA and they were looking for somewhere to live. And they found a place, a room available downstairs from another musician. I think they sublet it from him.
Yeah.
Anyway, they heard this other guy playing a song on the piano and singing along to it, and they really liked the song.
Who was the guy?
And the guy was Jackson Brown, and the song was Take It Easy. And they said, do you mind if we record it?
Oh, so they sort of collaborated on the song, right?
Yeah, and he said, sure, no problem. And of course, they made it a massive hit, even more than his version.
Talented guy, and then he was on the Supreme Court. Incredible.
Indeed. And
what a mind.
He reversed his last names and became a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Listen. Well, let's not get into identity and pronouns. I think it's fine. Whoever you want to be, go with God.
All right, quick shots.
A
friend of the show, RFK.
RFK Jr.,
Yeah, the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, he had a wonderful week.
He did. He does crazy things every week, but this one
he cleansed himself this week.
He was filmed. In fact, no, he self-posted images of him swimming in a creek called Rock Creek.
Which goes through Rock Creek Park in D.C.
In Washington, D.C. And it's famously full of sewage and bacteria. And he's in there with his grandkids.
With his grandkids, right?
Yeah.
We looked this up. It said, quote, the official warning is, quote, the creek, this is why you're not meant to swim there, quote, the creek has widespread fecal contamination and high levels of bacteria, including E. coli. The city has banned swimming in all of its waterways for more than 50 years.
That's surely a serious health risk, Honky.
Massive health risk. In fact, they were so worried about it, they've sent the river away for testing after RFK Jr. was in there.
Let me guess, it tested positive for heroin.
Yeah. What else?
Measles.
Yep.
Blended rat.
Yep.
And maybe dead whale or dead baby bear.
No, dead baby bear, you got it. This is why you're good. You know your science. Incredible. Uncanny. And the other great moment this week, quick shot, is tell them, Justice Janine Pirro.
Yes, well, tell us about her. It's a bit of a legal theme this week, isn't it? She's been made the interim US attorney for the District of Columbia.
So she's well known. She was a judge, and then she's been on Fox for years. A lot of wonderful qualities on Fox. You know, all the things Trump loves. She was a feverish 2020 election denier.
Right.
She got sued personally by Dominion Voting Systems, you know, when Fox and she falsely claimed that its machines were rigged to support Biden.
Yeah, well, that only cost Fox $787.5 million in damages.
Yeah. But the thing she's also best known for, she was suspended for other outrageous racist statements on the air. And think what you've got to do to say to get suspended from Fox.
Yeah.
But she's best known, she appeared once, because a lot of the time she does the show, or used to do the show from home, sort of with like a home studio.
Yeah, that started in the COVID era, didn't it?
Yeah, and she appeared on the air clearly blind drunk. And she said, like 23rd Fox employee to be hired by Trump.
Right, so a Fox News drunkard, she must be close personal friends with another friend of the show, Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, well, it's bittersweet for him. Like, he's promised not to drink on the job, but they're going to share an office, so he gets to sort of sniff her pores of her skin. And you follow the McDonald's story?
No. Tell us.
So, just last thing about the Middle Eastern tour, a little factoid is Trump, for his visit Saudi Arabia, not only bribed the shit out of him, but they got him his favourite bribe. They got Trump what's called, quote, a fully operational mobile McDonald's unit to give him McDonald's while he's in Saudi Arabia, because they don't have it, right?
Right. Imagine the drive-through line. Imagine the presidential motorcade going through with the 57 motorcycles, 8 black cars, and 57 more motorcycles.
Imagine the poor bastard at the end. Oh, sorry, we just ran out. Fucking of everything.
Excellent. Well, let's hope ScoMo steers clear.
Yeah. Please God.
All right. Australian news now. The big news of the week, Honky, is that there's a new leader of the Liberal Party.
Now, in Australia, of course, the Liberal Party is our Conservative Party.
Yes.
And they got crucified at the Australian election we talked about last week. 2 weeks ago, they got murdered in the election.
Yeah. And what's her name?
Susan Ley. She's the first female leader of the Liberal Party.
Right.
Susan Ley.
Is it Susan or Suzanne? I thought it was Suzanne Ley, as in Suzanne Ley, That Certain Style.
Suzanne Ley, that's it. What do you mean, Suzanne Ley, That Certain Style?
The women's fashion chain Suzanne Grey used to have an ad.
I don't remember Suzanne Grey.
Suzanne Grey, That Certain Style.
No, the only one I remember, I think I must be a little younger at heart than you. The only one I remember is This Goes With That at Suzanne.
This does go with that at Suzanne, yes. It's probably a more famous one, along with Katie's, I think.
Katie's, was
another one. Anyway, point is, Susan/Suzanne Ley has been appointed. What do you make of it?
Well, as I said, the Liberals got killed 2 weeks ago. In particular, they were killed at the ballot box. A lot of women didn't vote for them because of this sort of failure to appeal to women voters with this incredibly blokey image, and
they all voted for the Teals, didn't they?
Yeah, and very few female MPs and female candidates in winnable Liberal seats. So to sort of counter all that, they brought in this poor female leader who's got no chance of winning, who they're clearly going to blame for everything, and will inevitably then be replaced by a man by the time another election rolls around. Yeah,
it does feel to me very much like the Brendan Nelson stage of the election cycle. Do you remember
Brendan
him?
Nelson, I forgot about him. Who was he again?
He was a former president of the Australian Medical Association, from memory. I think he might have been a doctor in his own right.
Yeah.
And anyway, he took over the Liberal leadership after John Howard got smoked by Kevin Rudd.
By Prime Minister Kevin Rudd,
in 2007, Kevin 07.
And then Brendan didn't last long. What happened to Brendan?
No, so he was put up as in the Suzanne Ley role.
Yeah.
And then he got knifed by Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah, he's what they call in pro wrestling enhancement talent.
Yeah, he's the tomato can.
Yeah, he got knifed by Turnbull, yep.
He got knifed by Turnbull, and then the beauty was the WWE twist was then Turnbull got himself knifed by Abbott before the 2010 election.
That's right.
Who then got re-knifed by Turnbull some years later before the 2016 election, I think.
That's right. Yeah, that's
and
right.
I think ScoMo that we mentioned of Saudi Arabian McDonald's fame, / Engadine, knifed them both ahead of 2019.
And the only person who sort of had any stability was Bill Shorten, right?
That's right, because Shorten replaced Rudd.
He was a Labor leader, right?
Shorten replaced Rudd, who replaced Gillard, who had knifed Rudd, and then Rudd knifed Gillard back.
So Shorten was great because Shorten got the time and space he needed to show the entire Australian electorate that he was totally unelectable and to lose 2 elections.
He lost 2 elections. That's right.
Yeah.
He comprehensively established that everybody hated him.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the point of the whole thing is that Susan Lay, it is Susan, right? Not Suzanne. Susan.
Yeah.
It's got 2 S's in the middle.
She's got 2 S's because she got into numerology, I think. So she added an S.
Right. Okay. So we're in the hands of a numerologist. I feel so much better about her leadership.
Yeah, for sure.
Susan / Suzanne Lay.
For sure.
The point is she's Brendan Nelson, 2 leaders before the leader who contests and loses the next election.
Yeah. Well, so we can expect her to get knifed well before the next election, right?
Yeah. Who by, do you reckon?
It's got to be your Angus Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's the tomato can. He's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. So she's the tomato can brought on to lose to. Well, I wouldn't call Angus Taylor Hulk Hogan.
What? Who would you go with?
Well, not Hogan. I don't know. Like Angus Taylor's a pretty dark figure. The Undertaker.
All right. In sport, West Tigers update. Now we've introduced our listeners around the world to the West Tigers as not only a bad football team in their own right, but as representatives of bad footy teams in all codes all over the world.
Yeah, this is a rugby league team, but they could be, as you say, any bad team that you can't help but support.
Correct. Could be Spurs, it could be, you name it, the team that never wins. Anyway, and that was on the basis of 3 successive last place finishes, 3 wooden spoons. They haven't won the Premiership for 20 years. They haven't even made the finals. In a competition where half the teams make the finals every year since 2011.
Yeah.
So we pitched them as a bad team, but you might have doubted our credentials, listeners, because they won 5 of their first 9 games, and they were even in the top 8 in finals contention.
I was even starting to doubt our credentials as instant experts on sport. I was starting to doubt.
Yeah, and you were definitely an instant expert on sport.
100%. I know nothing. Yeah.
Anyway, we're pleased to report they returned to form on the weekend versus the Melbourne Storm. Honky, tell us all about that. Tell us the scoreline.
They played against the Melbourne Storm. Keeping in mind, Melbourne is not historically a rugby league city, but the Melbourne Storm is the team from Melbourne, obviously.
And is a good team.
They beat the Tigers 64-0.
I'm trying to think of a sport in the world where 64-0 is a good score when you're the nil.
There's none.
No, it was a shock. I mean, you and I could have played better than that.
Yeah, 100%. I think we have played better than that. Yeah. In my backyard, we've played better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother could have played better than that, and she's been in hospital lately.
Yeah, my mother did play, and she's 76.
Yeah.
But she was playing for the Storm, so she
lucky.
didn't get tackled the whole game.
Thank God, lucky, because she's not that robust a woman.
She just carved through the gaps. It felt like the Tigers put on high vis and got out those lollipop signs and guided the Storm through the traffic.
To make it easier for them to score.
Yeah, correct. Like sort of Spanish backpackers on the streets of Sydney.
I actually heard that. Did you hear they actually just signed I think the Tigers actually signed an outside centre from Madrid called Juanita Sanchez to tighten up the defence. I think.
Yeah, you could bring in Penelope Cruz as the defensive coach and probably tackle a bit better.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Record. The sad bit is we'd like to say this was a record defeat for the Tigers, but in fact, as you pointed out to me, we've lost worse.
Yeah, recently, 2 years ago, we not 64-0, we lost 74-0 to the North Queensland Cowboys.
So in other words, we're coming back. There's an improvement,
we're
right?
a 10-point better team than 2 years ago.
Yeah, so we're still going to now. We've been saying the whole time we're definitely going to win this year's Premiership. And we're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
This could be, I was thinking this 64-0, it could be like an Ali Foreman, like a rope-a-dope. Like deliberately shithouse to make the other teams think we're bad and then somehow come back
and win it all.
Yeah, that's my theory.
He is hoping.
Yeah.
Of course, the big story in rugby league is Bears Perth.
I think you mean the Perth Bears, don't you? You mean the new team in the rugby league that's going to be in Perth, right?
There is a new team in the NRL from 27, I think, called the Perth Bears, but I mean Bears Perth.
Just take us through it.
So the Bears Perth is a long-standing gay men's group.
Yeah.
And a bear being, as I understand
in Perth.
In Perth, yeah. A bear, as I understand it, being a hairy gay guy, and a sort of a burly, hairy guys are known as bears.
Yeah.
In gay culture.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds right.
And so, Bears Perth, with the announcement of Perth Bears,
they were very put out because they're not They've been there for years.
They've experienced a huge surge in traffic on their website with new members wanting to join.
That's good for the camaraderie in business, right?
It is, at least until a fella puts his hand on your leg when you weren't expecting it.
Well, you love it when Brian puts his hand on your leg. You love it. Stop pretending. Own your feelings.
There's nothing wrong with that. But this is a true story. There is Bears Perth is a real thing, and the Perth Bears would-be members have been all over them. So Bears Perth have had to make a statement saying, "Look, we appreciate your interest in our organisation, but if you're trying to join the NRL club,
you're in the wrong part of town.
You're in the wrong part of town.
Maybe the wrong part of town.
Yeah, exactly. So
so the real Perth Bears, or the Perth Bears, not the Bears Perth,
not
the
Bears
new
Perth.
rugby league team. They're a transplant from a team that played in North Sydney, right?
Yeah, the North Sydney Bears, who were forced out of the league after 1999, after Super League. Basically, they had to merge with their arch rivals, ironically called Manly.
Yeah. So Bears Perth have real history in Perth.
Yes.
Not Perth Bears, but Bears Perth.
Yes.
They've won numerous premierships.
Yeah.
Back of their famously vigorous defence.
I'd imagine they're pretty good in the tackle.
Yeah, and
tackle area.
They really like to slow down the play the ball. It's very underappreciated.
Very important part of rugby league.
Of many sporting codes in life.
I don't imagine they miss too many training sessions.
No, they stay in shape. They're at the gym all hours of the day and night, these guys, the Bears Perth.
Yes.
Never been caught in a peptide, like a drug taking, like a peptide scandal.
No.
A few amyl scandals.
Yeah, a little bit of MDMA.
Yeah. Very unified team. A lot of teams, they fight backstage, like fight in the dressing rooms. This team, no matter what happens in the field, they are always supportive of each other in the showers.
I think the Mad Monday parties would be worth going to.
And the fit out. The fit out is, you said to me, you went to one of their parties once, you say it was to die for, you said, the fit out.
So the upshot of all this is that there are Perth Bears and Bears Perth, and so they've had to do a deal to work out a deal on the IP and
the differences and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So the Perth Bears, so the Bears Perth, haven't they got this? They cut a deal, didn't they get to design the...
Yeah, they said you can have the naming rights to the team Perth Bears on two conditions. We get to design the uniform, and they're going to be the snuggest fitting in the NRL.
Yeah, as it should be,
And they've been allowed to choose the new club's song.
What's it going to be?
They've gone with Disco Inferno.
Disco Inferno.
Burn, baby, burn.
The best thing I like the most about the Bears Perth, the gay men social group, is they don't disguise their homoerotic feelings for other men by pretending it's a football game like rugby league. They just go for it.
Jump on top of each other for real.
I respect it.
Yeah. No, they're good guys, and I'm sure they'll make the new footy team very welcome.
I'm pretty sure they already have. I'm sure there's a bit of a crossover already.
Excellent. Well, that's all we have time for. Find us all in all the usual locations. There's a link tree in the show notes to show you how to listen any which way, but if you're listening already, you probably don't need that now that I think about it. Please share with your friends on your socials and in your group chats.
Yeah. We're on all the socials. We're on Facebook, TikTok, on X with Instant Experts X. We're on Instagram. It's on our show notes if you want to send us an email. It's on the show notes, g'day@instantexperts.com.au. On our website, also, if you go to the website, instantexperts.com.au, you can sign up for news. But above all,
please leave us a voicemail.
Like Erik The Viking, who we played earlier on the show.
Excellent. Now, Honky, what have we got to take us out? We usually finish with some sort of musical item or audio number.
Well, last week we played, we celebrated the election of the new Pope Leo the 14th, and we played a song from one of the candidates who didn't quite
Cardinal
make it.
Tagle, who could forget?
From Philippines, the great singing cardinal, who unfortunately we replayed murdering John Lennon's Imagine.
Yes.
Some people found that, fairly amusing.
Yeah.
Pretty
I thought
funny.
It wasn't that bad. I thought it was...
Not that bad. And if you thought he was bad, as you pointed out to me, the real killer is still on the loose, right?
Right, who's that?
Well, you remember the great 80s band Toto?
I do. Hold the line. Love isn't always on time.
Yeah, and also...
Rosanna.
Yep.
Rosanna. That was about Rosanna Arquette.
That's right.
Desperately seeking Susan.
So believe it or not, the guy we're going to play for you is the guy who sang those songs, plus their biggest hit, Africa.
Yeah, he can really sing, that guy.
Incredible voice. Well, it certainly was. His name is Bobby Kimball. He's the original lead singer of Toto. Now, the poor bastard got kicked out of the band many years ago, and it's never been clear why.
Yes.
Until now.
Yeah.
So this is him doing Africa we're going to leave you with.
Yeah.
Only this is solo at a state fair only a couple of years ago, about a year ago or the last year.
Right.
a state fair somewhere in the middle of the boondocks in the US.
Right, that's like Elvis doing Suspicious Minds at the School of Fate, pretty much.
This is the
guy
musical,
from Africa playing a state fair by himself.
This is the musical equivalent of the late stages of the Biden presidency, except in song.
Okay,
we're gonna have to leave you with this as usual with apologies.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing it, Honky. Meanwhile, back next week because Stupid never sleeps.
Thank you for your company. Stupid never sleeps. And enjoy this song if you can.
Let's